Suddenly, someone called out, "Ruby!" Ruby turned to look, causing Izzy and Chesa to blush. She tightened her grip on her evening gown and gently curtsied. "I've been waiting for you, brother." Chesa found Ruby's behavior today strange, so he exclaimed, "Oh my, our Ruby has become even more beautiful during our time apart." He approached her and continued, "Moreover, what's with that stiff greeting? You should do something for your brother, who travelled all the way from Carol Sea to get here." After saying that, Chesa gave a bright smile, captivating everyone around them. He gently said to Ruby, "Come here." He hugged her tightly, his hands holding Ruby close to him with a sinister look. "Your honeymoon went well, I see. I was so worried you weren't eating. It's a relief to see you doing so well." Chesa gently stroked Ruby's cheek. Ruby smiled and complimented him. "You've become more handsome too. Isn't Romania enough? Do you want to charm the young ladies of Andal as well?" Chesa laughed awkwardly. "Of course not." The Cardinal's delegation watching the scene murmured together. The scenery and the familiar reactions made it seem like everything was still the same. Ruby turned towards Izzy, who approached and softly called, "Ruby, you look beautiful today." Izzy fumbled, adding, "Well, you always look beautiful." Ruby smiled adorably. "It must be because of the dress you gave me. You look handsome today, Izzy." Upon being complimented by Ruby, Izzy beamed. "I'm handsome? Is that a genuine compliment?" Ruby didn't hesitate. "Of course." Izzy gazed at Ruby lovingly, taking her hand and bringing it to his lips, kissing it gently. "It's my pleasure, Princess." At this moment, Ruby's heart suddenly raced. "Then I'll have to compliment you more often. Thank you for welcoming my brother today." Chesa overheard and retorted, "Anyone would think my brother was a captured criminal." Izzy looked at Chesa. "How could your eminence resemble a criminal?" Chesa laughed. "I was just joking. You're always like this, aren't you?" Ruby looked at the two of them and thought, a brother who loves his sister meeting the husband who loves his sister. A scene of joyful greetings, and I'm the character receiving everyone's love. If someone who didn't know looked at this, they would see a beautiful picture. But they wouldn't know that this was all just a play. To complete this ridiculous play, I have to swallow the role I've been given. The Archbishop brought his niece forward to meet the Cardinal. "My niece admires you greatly, so please forgive my rudeness in introducing her to you," he said briefly, excitedly introducing her. "Thank you, Your Holiness. I am Freya van Fuana. It is an honor to meet Your Eminence." Chesa burst out laughing. "Irandal is full of beauties. It's fortunate I separated from my brother to come here." Ruby continued. "If Enzo came here and behaved like he does in the south, he might have had to climb aboard a ship and return that very night." Chesa added, "It's possible." He then put his arm around Ruby's shoulder. "But Ruby, you must be a little sad without him." Ruby smiled and spoke. "A little. He would only add to the noise." Freya van Fuana looked at Ruby. "Now I understand why Madame loves her family so much." Ruby smiled. "The Cardinal is such a wonderful person." Freya van Fuana raised her hand as if to push Ruby away. Izzy grabbed her wrist. "You truly have no shame," he said coldly. Freya van Fuana trembled with fear as Izzy tightened his grip on her hand. "What are you saying?" Izzy squeezed Freya's wrist tighter. "It seems you don't even have ears." People began to murmur. "Isn't that Miss Fuana? What's going on? What's this situation?" Chesa spoke, causing the Archbishop to startle. Clearly something has happened between them. For example, the Archbishop's niece here did something to our Ruby. The Archbishop hastily explained. "No, Your Eminence, my niece." Freya's eyes turned toward the Archbishop as he stepped forward, bowing sincerely. "Izzy, please let go of her first." Before agreeing to release Freya, Izzy said, "My warnings aren't just words. This is my final warning. Don't appear before me again, and don't linger around Ruby either." Freya van Fuana felt frightened by Izzy's warning. Izzy flung her hand away. Don't you know that if you're human, you should know your place? Cesare coldly stated. It would be best if the Archbishop re-executed his niece. Freya rubbed her hand, both in pain and fear, bowing her head in apology. I've been rude. How embarrassing. But I'm not feeling well today, so I'll excuse myself. With that, Freya van Fuana quickly ran off. Afterward, Cesare beckoned the Archbishop over. The Archbishop was terrified. Your Eminence, I apologize, but I think there's been a misunderstanding. Cesare patted the Archbishop's shoulder. Since when did your way of handling things become so troublesome? I thought you were still useful, or was I mistaken? The Archbishop's heart pounded, his face pale, not daring to look up at Cesare. His voice trembled. Your Eminence, Cesare interrupted. I still have to go and share my feelings with my family, so I'd appreciate it if you'd excuse yourself. Of course, you won't have another opportunity. Ruby looked at Cesare thoughtfully. In an instant, the situation had been resolved. He pressured her to the point of suffocation. Furia, who had continuously provoked her, was swiftly dealt with. She should feel relieved, but it reminded her of the tiring and helpless past. Suddenly, Ruby's stomach felt uncomfortable. Seeing that she seemed unwell, Izzy rushed over and hugged her tightly. Are you all right? Why did your complexion suddenly worsen? Ruby smiled weakly. It's just a slight stomach discomfort. Seeing Ruby trying to stay positive, Cesare immediately commented, Our Ruby is so lucky to have such a good husband, right, Ruby? I was going to invite the Archbishop's niece to dance, but it's a shame she left, Cesare said, stepping forward and taking Ruby's hand. So Ruby, I wonder if you could be my dance partner. It's been a while since we've reunited as siblings. I think my brother-in-law will concede to me today, right, brother-in-law? Izzy gently placed his hand on Ruby's. I'm fine. Dance and then come back. I'll be here watching you. Ruby reassured him and turned to Cesare. But it's been so long since I last danced, so I might step on your feet. Cesare laughed. How strange. Have you forgotten the first time you learned to dance, on my feet? Izzy thought to himself. That's because it wasn't me. Cesare looked into Ruby's eyes. There's a surprisingly adorable side to you. Ruby widened her eyes, not understanding what Cesare meant. I'm talking about your husband, Cesare teased. He's eager to monopolize you. Ruby smiled. What are you talking about? Cesare stared at Ruby, his gaze softening. The dress you're wearing is beautiful too. I thought he had no sense of fashion when it came to women's clothing. This is quite a refreshing image. He moved closer to Ruby. Could this be called first love? Ruby turned away. I don't know what you're saying. In all of Romania and Arundel, no one compares to my brother. I've been waiting for this day, Ruby continued, and now you're just saying strange things. You must be a little sad, Father. How is he? And what about Enzo? Cesare replied. Father is busy playing with his new lover, so he doesn't care much. As for that brat Enzo, he advanced on Remy but caused some trouble and got a good beating from Father. That sounds just like Enzo, Ruby said. Cesare smirked. That guy is the Papal Army's commander. Father doesn't find it amusing at all. I know you're more suited for that position than anyone, but it would be great if you didn't go to such dangerous places. My Ruby is so sweet. Enzo is just... Enzo. Cesare whispered into Ruby's ear. You've caused trouble too, haven't you? Ruby's face flushed. Cesare placed his hand on her waist. Let's talk about this slowly, he said, lifting her up and gazing directly into her eyes. Now, let's take a look at this filthy place. It was a romantic scene of the two of them embracing. Izzy could only sip his wine and watch. Ruby's cute, smiling face made Cesare gaze at her adoringly, while Izzy felt very uncomfortable. Suddenly, Ivan appeared out of nowhere and said to Izzy, compared to the bad rumours, he seems like a generous person. Izzy remained silent for a moment before replying, It seems so. Seeing Ivan acting strangely, Izzy asked, But what are you so excited about? Ivan replied, I mean about dancing with a beautiful woman. I still don't know why you asked us to do this, but did someone say something strange to you? Izzy said coldly. Say what? Ivan turned away. If there's nothing, then forget it. Let's ignore that. Don't make that face right now. You look no different from a man trailing after his wife. If you cling to your wife like that, the Duchess will quickly grow tired of you. Izzy looked at Ruby. Am I being too sensitive? From the moment Ruby reunited with Arab until now, she's been genuinely happy. I wonder if Cheza knows, but that's also the reason why he can't be seen openly. It's only because of Ruby that he's observing. Although, I've told myself countless times that in Ruby's marriage the Pope's intentions are absolute. Sometimes her eyes hold fear and terror. If he's the culprit behind Ruby's state, he would naturally know. Assuming he carries the same pain as Ruby, their empathy is frightening. If it stems from the bond of sharing the same wound, perhaps I can understand. If Ruby showed even a slight discomfort towards Arab, I might have noticed. But I don't see anything unusual. Maybe these thoughts are just my own personal feelings. Izzy placed his glass on the table, paused for a moment and continued. However, her strange eating habits are thoroughly concealed, even the slightest emotion on her face. I used to think she wasn't good at hiding things, but in some ways she hides it so well that it's impossible to detect. The scars left on her soft skin are gradually wearing down my patience. I want to pull her aside and ask her directly, but if I force her to tell the truth like that, it will only create another wound for her. I'm afraid that this little bit of peace we have will disappear and she'll leave me, so I can't ask. Izzy picked up his glass and drank. I have to find out another way. Freya van Fuana stood on the balcony, recalling Izzy's words to her. Don't hover around Ruby. The image of Ruby looking at her at that moment made Freya burst into tears. She told herself, it's okay, Izzy will come back to me soon, so think long-term and act accordingly. Freya van Fuana remembered when Izzy gave her the necklace. She had only joked. You're giving it to me to get rid of it because you have no one to give it to, right? But Ruby stood up abruptly and said, then give it to me next time. Izzy glanced at Ruby. Let's do that. Ruby smiled brightly with delight. After remembering, Freya van Fuana thought with a pang of heartache. Indulging in a brief moment of joy. Izzy is only temporarily blinded. I don't need to feel upset. Freya wiped away the tears rolling down her cheeks. Ellen stood outside the door, observing Freya van Fuana's every move. Izzy was sitting, sipping his wine, when Cheza spoke. So, you're here? Izzy quickly stood up. Where did Ruby go? Cheza immediately said, I'm not one to particularly like or dislike anything, but it's a pity. She said she was going to get some fresh air. She'll be back soon. Cheza continued, so, our brother-in-law doesn't seem to like this place very much. If there's a chance, I'll invite you to a banquet in the south. He replied, If I'm invited, I'm always ready. Cheza laughed. You mean my sister would like that too, right? I have something to tell you, Cheza said. It's crowded here, let's change locations. While walking with Cheza, Izzy noticed something on the dining table and frowned in displeasure. He stood and surveyed the scene again, calling the waiter over. The waiter asked, You called, sir? Clean it all up and bring out another plate, Izzy commanded. The waiter hesitated. Do I have to say it twice for you to understand? Izzy's murderous aura made the waiter immediately apologize. I'm sorry. I'll clean it up right away. Cheza chuckled at Izzy's behavior. In the reception room, Cheza said seriously, I have a lot to be grateful for to my brother-in-law. I don't mean anything else. I just want to thank you for understanding my sister's condition and taking good care of her. Izzy asked, What do you mean? Cheza shook his glass of wine lightly. It's embarrassing for me to say this myself, but Ruby is a child who has suffered a lot. Izzy still didn't fully understand. What do you mean? Cheza continued. When she was young, there was a time when she wasn't recognized by our father, even though now she's grown up to be a beautiful woman. Izzy nodded. I know about Ruby's birth. At that time, Romania was very chaotic, but this is the first time I'm hearing that the Pope didn't acknowledge the existence of his daughter. Chesa sighed. My sister wasn't registered in the household register until she was 4 years old. Even though she was later registered, she was still treated like a freeloader for a long time. At that time, I was too young to have enough strength to protect her, and I regret it for the rest of my life. Izzy immediately asked, "What happened?" Chesa replied, "Before I answer, can I ask you a question? What did you do when you were about 13 years old?" As we recalled, "I knelt before my mother and cried, 'I was wrong, so please come down, Mum.'" Chesa nodded. "At that time, I had to follow my ambitious father to learn many things. Ruby had gone to the Borgia monastery. My sister lived like an orphan. One day when I suddenly came to visit, I was shocked to see her. I found out that she had been tortured with an axe." Izzy was dumbfounded. "You're saying Ruby was tortured?" Chesa nodded. "I couldn't imagine seeing Ruby's tears fall. I rushed over and punched that bastard. The monks in the countryside, who claimed to be men of faith. It was a shame. That day I persuaded my father to bring Ruby home. I took care of all of Ruby's necessary education. The child who had endured such things. It took a long time for her to look into another person's eyes and smile for the first time." Hearing Ruby's heartbreaking story, Izzy felt a surge of emotion. He burst into tears. Chesa turned to look at Izzy. "She lived very well for a while, so I mistakenly thought she was at peace. But 3 years ago, Ruby fell very ill. The family and the doctors didn't know what was wrong with her. Ruby only got like that on the night of the full moon. Do you know what a sick child does when she wakes up? She hides in the wardrobe. Maybe while she was sick, she remembered something. Only God knows." He sighed. "Now she is fine, although there are still many things to worry about. From the fact that Ruby met my brother-in-law and gained stability to being married to you, I am very grateful to God. I feel lucky. Our Holy Father probably wouldn't be happy about that night at the villa." Meanwhile, Ruby staggered out onto the balcony, feeling uncomfortable. She was standing there, enjoying the cool breeze, when someone asked, "Are you out here to rest, madam?" Ruby startled and turned around. "Mr. Alons, I didn't know you were there, but the person next to you. It is an honor to meet you, Miss Freya." "I am Cardinal Ra." Ruby suddenly remembered that this person was clearly the one Enzo trusted and followed more than his brother Chesa. Enzo usually didn't care much for priests, but with this person he showed respect. Because of his stiff demeanor, he was often teased for being single, suggesting that they were very close. Ruby chuckled. "Long time no see, Cardinal Rocker," Ruby said. Alons asked, "Are you out here for some fresh air, madam?" Ruby replied, "I hope I'm not interrupting your conversation." Alphonse replied, "Not at all, I was just asking after my nephew." Ruby was surprised. "Oh my, are you two relatives?" Cardinal Roker turned away. "It's a pity that this nephew doesn't act like a man. I have a weak nephew." He glanced at Alphonse before continuing. "I can't believe he missed such an angel. Anyway, it's a shame for the BCE family." Alf was dumbfounded. "I'm speechless." Seeing the two of them being amusing, Ruby laughed. Feeling guilty, Cardinal Roker didn't forget to congratulate Ruby. "So, Miss Freya, I pray that your husband will win this competition." Alphonse interrupted. "Madame, don't be fooled. My uncle's prayer has no effect." Cardinal Roker was furious. "This kid can't say anything nice." Before leaving, Alphonse gave a friendly smile. "Madam, I'll see you later." Suddenly, Cardinal Roker stopped, looking at Ruby with hesitation. "Oh, Miss Freya," he said, "if you need help, call me any time." Ruby looked at him thoughtfully. "Before I became a member of the Witt family, I was also a Romanian." "Thank you for your concern, Cardinal Roker," Ruby replied. Cardinal Roker bowed. "God bless, Miss Freya." After he left, Ruby wondered if he was truly a Romanieren and looked up at the sky. So they were relatives, Ruby began to ponder. It was because she had seen Alphonse hanging around with the Cardinal of Romanieren that she felt that way. Suddenly memories from the original novel surfaced. The reason for the collapse of Romanieren was due to some traitors in the Holy See who stole the Holy Grail and handed it over to Alphonse's allies. The Holy Grail was a sacred object containing the names of all those who had been ordained in the clergy. It was like a wine cup used by the first saint. The Holy Grail had special powers. It could destroy the divine core, the center of divine power, making a person useless as a human. The ritual involved in this could only be performed using the Holy Grail. As a result, all those ordained were afraid of the Borgia family, who possessed the Holy Grail. Power is just power, so using the Holy Grail with the Pope's arbitrariness was impossible. However, the Borgia, who had been robbed of God's power, quickly fell into a ridiculous state. Ruby thought back on it. The Holy Grail could make wishes come true, but there was no record of wishes in theological books, so it was simply a superstition. Ruby muttered to herself, "A wish." Suddenly someone called out, "Duchess!" She was delighted to see Princess Aaron. "Today you look like a fairy, madame," Alia complimented. Ruby smiled. "Thank you, Princess. You are also very beautiful. The crown suits you very well." Aaron took it off and offered, "Would you like to try it on, madam?" Ruby hesitated. "But it's the princess's. I can't just wear it." Aaron immediately replied, "But it seems that this crown suits you better than me." Before Ruby could answer, the Empress came up and said, "Princess, you shouldn't make the Duchess uncomfortable." Ruby recognized the voice and turned to see who it was. It was the Empress. "It's been a long time since I saw you. Since the last palace banquet, the princess has been talking about you non-stop. I really want to thank you." "I'm so embarrassed that I've only just met you," the Empress said. Ruby found it strange. It wasn't that the Empress hadn't attended the banquet, but that she had watched everything from afar. "Thank you for always playing with the princess," the Empress continued. "After meeting you, the princess always shows me a bright image. As a mother, I am very happy about that." Ruby smiled warmly. "You two are cute and alike. It would be great if Aaron could grow up in the love of her parents," the Empress replied. "Come to think of it, it seems you've adapted to this place. I was going to send you an invitation several times but hesitated, wondering whether I should bother you." Ruby thought about the Empress's position in Britain's aristocratic society. She didn't need to worry, so she replied, "It's okay. If you invite me, I'd be honored." The Empress smiled. "As expected of you, madam." Before Ruby could finish, the Empress interrupted, "You are such a sentimental and lovely person." Suddenly, the door opened. "So, you were talking to the Empress?" Ruby remarked, as Cesar walked in coldly. The Empress immediately said, "Long time no see, Cardinal Valentino." Cesar smiled. "Have you been well, Empress?" Princess Aaron stepped back when she saw Cesar hiding behind the Empress. Noticing this, the Empress said, "It seems the princess is afraid of the wind. I'll excuse myself." As she turned away, her eyes looked sinister. Cesar glanced to see if the Empress had gone far. Ruby sighed. "I was about to go inside. You couldn't wait a little while, so you came out looking for me?" Cesar kissed Ruby's head. "The one who's impatient is your husband. When I said I would go find you, he reluctantly gave in. There's nothing to see here. I heard that the Moon Tower and Palace are very famous, so I was looking forward to it. I didn't expect it to be such a rustic clock tower." Ruby said to Cesar, "I thought you were enjoying yourself. You don't seem very happy." Cesar put his hand on Ruby's head. "Happy? I'm very happy to see you, but this party is so boring. It would be better for you to go sightseeing in the city." Ruby laughed. "I've never visited Arundel either." Cesar found it strange and pressed. "Is the reason you're not interested in those things because of your husband?" Ruby smiled. "You're in a bit too deep. But those are your words, so I can only listen. Chesa continued, You still don't know your husband well. Ruby, if so, then go and talk to him directly and let me know what his reaction was like. Ruby thought for a moment. First, I have to try to make that guy as satisfied as possible, because I need to find out what he's up to. Suddenly, a crowd gathered around. Lady Rhea, so the Duchess is here. Madam, talk to me for a bit. No, talk to me first, madam. Ruby didn't understand why everyone was crowding around. Could it be because I danced with Chesa earlier? Ruby was so scared that she closed her eyes and refused. I'm sorry, but I'm a little busy right now. Just then, Isaac appeared. I've been looking for you, Ruby, he said, gently caressing her cheek. Ruby slowly opened her eyes and was surprised to see Isaac standing in front of her. Her eyes sparkled as she acted coyly with him. I couldn't stand being away from you for even a little while, Ruby said, throwing herself into Isaac's arms. Isaac didn't say anything, just gently stroked her head. Then he turned around, glaring at the crowd with burning eyes. He asked, Where has Ruby been? Ruby replied that she had just gone out for some fresh air. When she asked Isaac in return, he replied that he had been running around looking for her. After that, the two began to enjoy the party. Ruby slowly ate each dish on her plate. Isaac sat next to her and asked if the food was delicious. Seeing that Isaac wasn't eating, Ruby turned to ask why. Isaac simply said, I don't have an appetite today. Remembering that Isaac used to eat a lot every day, Ruby couldn't help but feel suspicious. Every time she ate, Isaac would stare at her. Suddenly, Isaac turned and said, If you don't want to eat, you don't have to force yourself. Ruby awkwardly asked, I wasn't forcing myself to eat. She put down her fork and said that her brother wanted to go to the festival with her later, and she wanted to ask Isaac's opinion first. As she asked, Ruby felt restless, even though she wasn't lying. Isaac said suspiciously, I didn't think the Cardinal would enjoy himself so much. Ruby could only laugh awkwardly. He's been like that since he was a child. Isaac said that, but still agreed with her. I'll have the temple guide you. Ruby looked at Isaac's displeased expression, surprised that he had agreed so easily. She offered for Isaac to come along, but he quickly refused. I don't want to disturb them since they haven't seen each other for a long time. Ruby secretly observed Isaac's attitude, still hesitant to leave him alone and go out. Isaac suddenly pinched Ruby's cheek, smiling as he said, You can go have fun. Anyway, it's not the first or second time you've wandered off. Ruby whispered back, Who said I was wandering off? Part of the reason Isaac agreed to let Ruby go was because the capital was now safe. There was no need to worry about monsters or anything. Isaac added that they had cleared the monsters near Andal before the festival, and with the Cardinals here, monsters wouldn't appear. Ruby thought he was right. Ever since Chesa had appeared, this shield had been set up. Isaac then called for someone to prepare a carriage for Ruby. When they arrived, Ruby sat in the carriage, waiting for Chesa to chat with Isaac. Chesa joked, Sorry for stealing Ruby away, brother-in-law. He even said he would specifically pray for Isaac to make up for it. Isaac replied, Does it work? Chesa confidently said, Of course. Ruby, seeing them so close, felt somewhat annoyed for some reason. Clearly, Isaac had been deceived by Chesa's fake persona. Lost in thought, Ruby suddenly saw Isaac outside the door. He noticed her troubled expression and asked with concern, Are you feeling unwell? Ruby shyly waved her hand. I'm fine. Isaac gently stroked her face. Then have fun. Seeing Isaac like that made Ruby feel a kind of unpleasant sensation welling up inside her. She knew she had to endure it, but for some reason she felt like she was doing something wrong. The carriage began to roll, leaving Isaac silently watching for a long time. Inside the carriage, Ruby began to plan. First, she had to focus on Chesa. Going out was just an excuse. After the Congress started, there wouldn't be time anymore, so before that she had to find a reason to confront him. Ruby needed to try her best to understand his intelligence network. Chesa suggested they stop by the temple first. Ruby was dumbfounded and didn't understand why, but Chesa explained, "Your clothes are too splendid. If you want to peacefully enjoy the scenery, you have to disguise yourself." Ruby flushed with embarrassment, realizing he was right. She changed into a monk's outfit and even deliberately wore a hat to avoid being recognized. There was someone waiting for them ahead, someone who seemed to be in charge of guiding them. No matter how Ruby looked at it, that person didn't look like the usual Andal monks. She felt more like a spy planted by Chesa. Chesa suddenly took Ruby's hand and said meaningfully, "Not cute at all. I mean, your husband." He leaned close to her, deliberately implying that Isaac had sent someone to follow them. Ruby glanced around, but didn't see any spies. She retorted, "I don't see anyone. Are you mistaken? Who would follow us?" Before Ruby could finish, Chesa rudely interrupted. "Have you forgotten already? Everyone but us is an enemy." He squeezed Ruby's hand as he spoke. Ruby smiled reassuringly. "How could I forget? It was just a little misunderstanding." She tried to change the subject. "It's been a long time since I've seen you so happy." Chesa very naturally took Ruby's hand and replied, "That husband of yours makes me very happy." Ruby breathed a sigh of relief. She thought she was about to suffocate. She didn't know if it was really Isaac's order or if someone else found them an eyesore. Chesa then asked Ruby if she was always monitored like this. Ruby casually replied, "Always. That's why I'm just waiting for the day I can go home." Chesa suddenly locked Ruby from behind, lowering his voice. "Does someone who really intends to return home mess things up like this? Tell me, my lovely Ruby." Ruby's spine chilled at his terrifying smile. Chesa suddenly changed his attitude, turning around to hold her hand, gently saying, "Let's stop playing with those guys." Before Ruby could react, he pulled her away. Ruby cursed inwardly. He's really crazy. The two strolled down the street, chatting casually. Out of the blue, Chesa mentioned Isaac, asking if he hadn't taken Ruby on a tour of the capital. Ruby immediately replied, "Is there anyone else in this world besides you who would take me sightseeing?" Chesa took Ruby's hand again, looking at the festive scene. He recalled the past, asking Ruby if she remembered that Christmas. Ruby started reminiscing. "How could I forget that Christmas? You and I went to Santa Maria Square, staying out until early morning before thinking of returning home, but the person waiting for us at home was my drunken father." Her father had drunk too much and scolded them terribly just because they had come home later than usual. He even spoke harshly to his beloved son about his chaotic relationships with women and his choice of a mistress as the mother of his children. Although Ruby didn't understand why Chesa brought up those unpleasant memories, she expressed her feelings. "I was so scared at that time. I was so anxious that father would hit you." Hearing that, Chesa's mood instantly brightened. He thought Ruby was worried about him, but in truth, Ruby had just wanted to avoid seeing violence.